What's going on, bro? I'm out here in Wilmington, North Carolina. We're here for a preseason game. We play UNCW tomorrow, our second preseason game of this preseason. But yeah, we made the 3-hour trip. We've been here for 2 days now. Trained this morning, so we're just getting ready for the game tomorrow. Just out here on the dock of that's the house we're staying in. Just enjoying out here, a bit of nature. It was a little sunnier yesterday, so it was a bit more enjoyable. But funny enough, the last time I was here was in 2017, which is now 7 years ago, which is just crazy to think about. But I was here for a spring game in college, which was my very first spring. So I graduated early from high school. So what was supposed to be the spring of my senior year of high school, I left and went to Wake to be there just for that spring semester before the fall. So in that spring, I started my very first game against Duke and had a pretty good game. We won 2-0, something like that. And the next weekend, we traveled here to Wilmington for another preseason game or spring season game. And that was my second start of my college career and my very first away game that I started in. So we came however many hours, 3 hours on a bus to Wilmington. I got, like I said, my second start of my college career. Had a really good first half, felt really confident. It was actually supposed to be the other keeper who played the second half, but he was kind of hurt. So they told me, hey, you're just going to go play the second half. And I was like, okay. So I go out, play, the second half starts, and they get a corner. And this proceeded to happen. So we ended up losing the game 1-0 based off this one goal. And man, I was crushed. It was really hard for me to take, especially because it was a preseason trip for us. The next day we did a little recovery session on the beach and just like juggling the ball around and whatever. But man, to know that we lost 1-0 and it was from a goal that I let in and a pretty bad mistake, as you can see, it was really tough for me to handle. I had never had a moment like this before. Obviously, it was my second college start, my first away start, so that was difficult to deal with. But even in like academy, I never had a moment like that. That was so such a bad goal to let in. But like I said, I was crushed. I was just really frustrated emotionally. Like I said, that next day when we were out on the beach, I just felt so bad about myself. And even on the bus ride home, I just felt like everyone on my team hated me and just like that I let the team down. And just even that next day, just on the phone with my parents, and I'm even just like in tears, man, because it was just really hard for me to deal with, especially I was the only one who came in early in the spring in my class. So just felt very alone, and it was just a tough moment to deal with. But obviously, I've grown a lot between now and then. It's been 7 years of college soccer and professional soccer, and I've learned a couple things about failure and making mistakes, and I feel like it'd be some pretty useful information for you. So one of the first things I learned was there's a difference between failing and being a failure, right? So I guess the key takeaway here is you want to make sure that you leave your identity or your value as a person outside of the game. So every time that we step on the field, we almost want to leave that identity or value at the door, because in that moment when I make that mistake and I feel horrible, it's almost like I'm taking that mistake and it's almost hurting me as a person. Like I took it personally, to where it wasn't like, oh, I made a mistake. It was almost like it really just attacked me at the core of who I am. So, like I said, there's a big difference between failing and feeling like a failure or being a failure. And I think that the biggest mistake I see with most people is that obviously like soccer is a really important part of my life. It's my profession, but I don't find my identity in that. I don't find my value in that. I think at the time I did, and that's why it hurt so much and was such a tough thing to go through. But since then, I've realized that you have to have your value and your identity as a person in things outside of soccer. Because soccer, especially if you continue to play college pro, there's going to be high moments, there's going to be low moments, and there's going to be times where you make mistakes like that. And first off, you need to accept that and know that you're going to make mistakes like that. But if your value is in the game and what you do and how things go on the field, it's just going to be a roller coaster of ups and downs for your entire career, and you don't want it to be that way. So I would say two of the biggest things that I find my value and identity in as a person is just God. You know, I'm a religious guy. I'm a Christian, and you know, I believe in God, and I find that you know, I find my identity a lot in God and who He created me to be. And God doesn't care how things go on the soccer field. You know, if I have a great game, have a bad game, doesn't matter. I'm still the same person. And I would say the other thing that I find my value in is just my family. Like I said, again, family doesn't care how well I do on the field. If I make a big save, if I make a mistake like that. So I think having your identity rooted in things that don't change. You know what I'm saying? If your identity is rooted in your performance as a soccer player, it's just going to be this roller coaster that will be pretty unforgiving to be riding. So the second thing I would say is you cannot believe the failures or the successes, right? So in that moment, I believed the failure, and I took it personally. But you need to understand that there's going to be times when you have success and you have a great game, you make a big save, you make the winning save for your team, and everyone's going to hype you up and tell you you're the man and all these amazing things. But you need to stay grounded in those moments, because if you believe what everyone is saying to you and you buy into, oh, I'm the man, yeah, like I am all this, I am so great because I make this save and because I had a great game, that's why I'm great. You're going to feel bad in the moments when you don't have the great game or you don't make the save or you make the mistake like this. So, man, one of my favorite quotes, it was from the late Kobe Bryant, rest in peace. But he said, mental toughness is never getting too high and never getting too low. And I know that could be a bit of a cliche, but I think if you don't give into it too much in the highs, you won't give into it too much in these lower moments, right? Again, I think it's all about just staying even keel and just staying grounded. So the last thing that I learned when it comes to all this is the most important thing in all of these kinds of situations is how you respond, right? We don't have control over little things that happen in the game, like a mistake like this. They're always going to happen. And again, you need to know and accept that as a goalkeeper, you're going to make mistakes. You're going to have moments like this. If you play long enough and you play at high enough levels, things are going to go wrong. And sometimes even things like this will happen. And so you have to know and accept that and make it your priority to respond in the best possible way, right? So the worst thing to happen is for you to make this mistake, let's just say first 10 minutes of the game, and for that to compound into another mistake, right? Because you could make that mistake and then your team scores one goal and it's 1-1, and then they score another and you win 2-1, and everyone forgets the mistake because you won and no problem. But if you make a mistake like that, and then you let it affect you the rest of the game and you make another mistake, and now it's 2-0, 3-0. At that point, the game could be almost lost. So I think just making sure that one mistake doesn't turn into two. And man, I would say you have full control over how you respond. Be that, I think body language, one, is huge. How do you look? You know, do you look defeated? Are your shoulders back? Are you looking down at the ground? And I would say the other big one is just communications with your teammates. Are you going quiet? Are you a different player than before the mistake happened, right? Or is it just the same person? Never wavering confidence, just the same. And man, I think if you can control those two things, that would be the most important thing. I heard on a podcast one time, this guy who worked with Stephen Curry, you know, one of the best NBA players of all time, best shooters of all time. He said, the interviewer asked this guy, he said, what was the one thing that made Steph Curry, what makes him so great? And he said that Steph Curry can go into a game and miss his first 7 shots, but he will shoot that 8th shot with the same confidence as if he didn't miss any of those shots. Where most players will take 7 shots and miss them all, and they'll shoot that 8th one with lower confidence and not believing that they're going to make it, while Steph Curry still just continues to shoot, right? So at the end of the day, you're going to make mistakes, right? Things are going to happen in training, in games, in big games, and you need to accept that. You need to know that. And I think for some people that could mean, hey, I don't want to be in these big games because I don't want to be making mistakes, and I don't want to be the one that is responsible for my team. But I think the best way for you to look at it is to accept that you're going to make mistakes, but also relish that and relish the fact that you are the one who has the confidence to step into these games, and you're willing to put yourself out on the line, and understand that you're going to have great games and you're going to have mistakes and whatever it is, but having the courage to put yourself in those situations and just being ready to respond in the best possible way. Going into a game knowing that, hey, anything can happen today, but I know that I am strong enough physically, mentally, emotionally to get through and make the most of whatever happens today. So I think if you can go into any kind of game or training reminding yourself of that, that's going to be the biggest thing. So I hope some of those lessons help you and give you the confidence and the courage to step into some of these moments, because like I said, for me, that was a tough moment, and but it took a lot of courage to step in, and that was my first college away game. And at the end of the day, another quote that I love is, success is never final and failure is never fatal, right? So I think that in those moments it feels like it's the end of the world and you're gonna die or something like that, but you have to realize that the world keeps spinning. The game keeps on going around. Even after big games and that you do really well, and even after those mistakes, there's always going to be another opportunity. There's going to be training, the next day, or a game the next weekend, and you need to be ready to make the most of that and don't sit in that mistake or in that failure. So, yeah, man, continue to work, continue to prep yourself for these moments and to be ready to make the most of them, but understand that anything can happen and your response is going to be the most important thing. So, yeah, man, 7 years ago, it's crazy. It's been that long, but just looking forward to the game tomorrow. And, yeah, man, continue to do your work and just being persistent and being ready to respond to whatever happens. So, yeah, man, hope you have a great day, and we'll talk soon.